So as a kid, many of us were brought up to believe that you should just go to school, get a job, get a really high paying career, and you'll be set for life. The basic formula was number one, grow up, and number two, go to school and get an amazing job. But is it really that simple? Let's take a look at the realities around getting a high paying job and what it really means to actually have one. Now, last year in the UK, according to a resource that we've got down here, it says that the average annual salary was £38,600. And if we to divide that over the space of 12 months, that basically equates to £3,200, just a little bit over. So what is a high paying job? In this video, we're going to call a high paying job anything that pays 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 plus per month. And before we start, if you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Here we talk about how to make, manage and multiply your money. So let's go right into our very first one. And the dark truth number one about actually going into a high paying job is that it's not just like you apply for a job that you see that's £250,000 per year and they just say yes and you go in. Actually, there's a lot of work that has to be done upfront in order to get that job. And I just want to give like a case study of a very good friend of mine that I know. And this guy makes a considerably amount of money from his job, anywhere between £10,000 to £20,000 a month. And I would love to know, what is the most amount of money that you know of somebody from their actual job makes in your circle? But from that perspective, in his job role, he didn't just get there by, doing nothing and one day waking up in like a high paying job. Actually, this guy has worked for years and years and years developing his skill at what he does. And this is a really big point. In order to get a high paying job, we have to have something unique, something special to bring in order for somebody to be happy to pay us a lot of money, of course. So that's really one of the big things. What are some of the key skills that potentially you could develop or look at actually bringing to a business or company so that they are able to pay you a large amount, but in the process, you're able to give them a really good return on their investment. Now, maybe you'll have seen my other video where I reviewed the top 15 UK emerging jobs, and you'll see on there that there are lots of emerging fields coming out at the moment. Maybe if it's you're an artificial intelligence specialist, or maybe, for example, you have a really good ability in marketing to bring in hundreds of thousands of pounds per month, then if that's the case, a company is very much more likely to want to pay you a large amount of money, because by having you, you give them so much. If you're able to give a company, let's say, for example, £100,000 a month in extra revenue, then I'm pretty sure they're going to be happy to give you anywhere from 10 to 20% between that. And that is really how going into these high paying jobs works. You've got to have something of value to bring. But then there's another side to this. Actually, yes, you need to have value, but the thing is, it takes time to build that value, and often you don't get paid for that time. There are lots of sports stars that you see today who are in their prime, but they spent years and years in the training ground developing those skills. But during that time, many people would have never known about them. Maybe they weren't even ever paid for what they did. So there is actually a period of time when you're going after a skill set that you're going to have to put in the work again and again and again and again. You're going to have to show up, you're going to have to do the study, do the practice, do the things that are going to make your skills really good. And then eventually, one day you can come out, showcase that skill, and eventually profit very handsomely from it. But just remember, it does take time to build skills. So this is something that we can't necessarily rush. We can definitely give it our 100%, but eventually there will be a day that when you put in the work again and again and you're actually good at what you do, you can't be ignored. Now, the other thing that we need to be aware of actually when really making a lot of money from a job or being in a high paying job is that the money that we receive is subject to a large percentage of tax. And just to kind of have a look at that, we're going to look at some real numbers as to what that actually means. Of course, tax is something that as an employee, especially here in the UK, is something that you just have to do. I mean, tax is like, payable everywhere. But if you're making more money, especially in our system that you have in the UK, then you are taxed at a higher bracket. So having a look at an example of somebody earning £100,000 per year, we can see actually what do they actually take home. So here we go. We've just put in £100,000, and for somebody that earns £100,000 a year, actually they will come home with just £66,640. So essentially, they will have had about 34,000 approximately taken out from what they would really receive. So it's not actually the case that everything that you make from that £100,000 is actually going to be in your pocket. A large percentage of that does go to tax, national insurance, and potentially other things as well, where you won't be receiving 100% of that money. So it is something to bear in mind, and there is like higher tax brackets, of course, in the UK, I believe at the moment, if you're earning over £150,000, then the tax bracket goes from like 40%, which is the bracket below, to 45%, which is nearly half of what you earn will go to taxes. So just a good thing to bear in mind. This is why often people with really high skill sets, they'll often go up and set up like a limited company and take advantage of the tax base there. Now, I'm not definitely like a tax consultant or anything like that, but that is just one way that I know that is very popular to really minimize the amount of tax that is paid on really high paying professions. Now, the third thing that we got to be aware of when you get into a position of a high paying job is actually something that is called lifestyle inflation. And lifestyle inflation is really the principle that actually when you start to earn more money, that you actually are more prone to spend more money. So let's say, for example, you earn at the moment £1,000, and that allows you to live comfortably, and you get on by just well with that. And then all of a sudden you have a nice pay rise of an extra £2,000 per month, and because of that you've now got an extra £2,000 in disposable income. And with that being said, all those things that you wanted when you were only making £1,000 a month are now much more affordable. That new car, that better house, all those fancy meals and restaurants, or lots of delivery trips, or lots of takeouts now, then it could be the case, and it often is the case, that people that start earning more money start to spend more money, and their expenses really start to creep up with the amount of income that they make. And this is a really key point to bear in mind. Of course, if you are making much more money, a really, really good way to be able to not let yourself be subject to lifestyle inflation and blow the extra money that you do make is literally just to live on that money that you were living before, and then save and invest the rest. At least this way, when you are now in a position where you look back, say 12 months afterwards or a couple of years later, you actually have something to show for all the money that you have made in addition to what you were before. Now, the final point that we want to discuss in terms of a dark truth about having a high paying job is that according to studies, so we're going to look at a website here called ifs.org.uk. Here it talks about the top 1% of income tax earners are not a stable group. It talks about a quarter of those in the top 1% in 1 year will not be there the next. Wow. One of the key ways in terms of a high paying job specifically is that you've got to constantly be upskilling, you've got to constantly be developing your skills, because every single day there's always new developments, new technology, new softwares, new things that are going on in the marketplace. Lots of changes are always happening, and it's really key to be able to keep up with those changes so that you can keep innovating, keep bringing unique value, and of course bringing more resources, more results to a company so that they can continue to pay you higher and higher. The reason why I think that actually 50% of the people that are there now won't be in the top 1% in the next 5 years is oftentimes maybe people get comfortable in their situation where they're earning a lot of money and kind of stop doing the things that got them there in the first place. So maybe they were like studying all the time, or like learning or going to courses, taking seminars, and really once they got to that top level, they kind of just stopped. And that is a really good lesson to kind of take away. Just, constantly be learning. It's always good anyway to do that. And back to that example of like my friend, or anybody like in a really, really good position, you're always going to have people that will want to be in your position as well. So you've got to bear in mind that, you know, you can keep developing those skills to really stay relevant, and that will put you in a better position to actually keep the high paying job that you do have and not be replaced by somebody that was just a lot more hungry, a lot more motivated to actually get even better results than what you were doing yourself. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what are the best parts that you found about having a high paying job? What are the worst parts that you found about having a high paying job? I guess that maybe some of you will say like your friends expect you to pick up the bill when you guys go out, which would be pretty funny. But at that same time, that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to go ahead and hit that subscribe and like button if you love this video. And I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and we'll see you in the next one.